I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny
Okay, all right, we don't have everyone back yet, but we will soon, I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit to give them a chance to catch up. I can't believe an hour and 13 minutes, no, I'm sorry, 45 minutes after we were supposed to start. This is a new record. At least I'm not going to fall asleep during the middle of it, but this was insane. YouTube completely screwed us over again and again and again. I have no idea what happened, and I have no idea why it finally started working. I don't know. Anyway, I have to pull up the whistleblower. Thank you, Picasso. Thank you. I adore you too. I have to pull up the whistleblower sheet. That didn't open yet, so give me a moment to bring that up. History, whistleblower complaint. There it is. Okay. Thank goodness for history. Thank you, David, for letting the others know. I appreciate it immensely, and very much thank you for hanging around. You and I believe SRS was up there too. Am I mistaken there? Oh, he checked out, but they'll be back. Okay. So, what's going on here? Well, as it says in the caption for the video, we have a couple things. First, we've got the whistleblower complaint, or I keep saying whistleblower when I mean to say crybaby. Excuse me if I don't remember to do that every time, but that is the case here. This is not a whistleblower. This is a crybaby. This is someone who can't handle that Trump won the election, and so they're doing everything they can to try and get him impeached, and at the same time draw attention away from the IG report that's due any week now. And right now, the news cycle, they are winning. But remember, Pelosi has not instituted an actual impeachment inquiry yet. All she said the day before yesterday was that she was going to have the 6 House committees investigate Trump. They've been doing that since they first stamped down their gavel and took over the majority and took over the chairmanship of those committees. So she actually committed to nothing. The House is getting closer and closer to having the votes for impeachment, though. The last I heard, they were at 213 and they need 219. So it's getting there. Now what's going to happen to Trump? I think impeachment is probably a 70-30 odds on that they will. What happens to Trump if they do impeach? I think he wins 2020 hands down. I really do, because They have nothing on him. This complaint and the whistleblower added, the crybaby complaint added to the transcript that we read yesterday means that there's nothing there. You can infer, if you want to, that Trump made a quid pro quo. I did that the other day. Sorry about that. That Trump made a quid pro quo with Zelensky, but there's no proof of it. The House has to come up with a real smoking gun to where Trump said, and someone will testify under oath to the fact, or they find a piece of paper to the effect that Trump said Ukraine does not get the aid, the $393 million in military aid. They do not get that until they investigate CrowdStrike's Ukrainian connection, and they also investigate the Bidens, Joe and Hunter. There's no record of that right now. And remember, all of this is covered by executive privilege. Trump laid everything open for Mueller back in the day, and I don't see Trump giving them any more room. He gave them the mile, and now they want the entire circumference of the earth. They're not going to get it. Trump has every right to put all of that under executive privilege, and Congress has no right to pry it out of his hands. That's how I see it working. But they will use his they will call it intransigence. They will call it not allowing Congress to perform its oversight duties. And they will use that as their impetus to impeach, because they got nothing. The Senate, of course, will slap it down in the dirt faster than one of us could swat a mosquito on our arm. And I think this energizes not only Trump's base, which is already as energized as it's ever going to get, but it's also going to energize the independents, because they will have seen exactly what the Democratic Party means right now, which is nothing. It means nothing but impeach Trump, impeach Trump, impeach Trump. We were making fun of Maxine Waters last year, a year and a half or 2 years ago, for constantly saying, impeach 45, impeach 45. Well, she's going to get her wish. And she's not going to lose her seat because the people in her district don't know the difference between voting for an actual representative and voting for an idiot. I don't blame them. That's what they've been doing all their lives. They're just used to it. But you'd think someday someone would wake up and say, you know what, she hasn't done anything for us in the last 40 years. Why do we keep voting her into office? I don't know, folks. I don't know. I'm rambling. Okay. SRS is back. Okay. Able Danger is going nuts too. So it must have been a YouTube thing. Perfect timing for us, right? Perfect timing. Okay, let's get going. The others will catch up, and there's no reason. Now remember, I enabled DVR on these streams. So if you come in the middle and you want to go back to the beginning, all you have to do is just scroll back. You can use the time scrubber on your window and just scroll back to wherever you want to, with up to 4 hours before where I'm at that point. So then you can just watch, and when the stream cuts off, you should still be able to follow, because I post the stream as soon as it's over. So I don't see any reason that you shouldn't be able to continue watching, but I've never done that. Oh, wow. Big line at the cashier's window. Holy cannoli. Got to get that bet down, folks. Come on. Stop screwing around and pick your pony. All right, here we go. This is the crybaby complaint that was filed on August 12th, 2019, and has been unclassified and unredacted, except, I believe, for a couple of footnotes. There's a couple of things in the footnotes that have been redacted, and that's it. I haven't read it yet, so you know how it is. I was going cold. Okay, this is sent to the Honorable Richard Burr, Chairman, Select Committee on Intelligence, United States Senate, and the Execrable Adam Schiff, Chairman, Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, United States House of Representatives. Dear Chairman Burr and Chairman Schiff, I am reporting an, quote, urgent concern in accordance with the procedures outlined in 50 U.S.C. Section 3033 K5A. This letter is unclassified when separated from the attachment. In the course of my official duties, I have received information from multiple U.S. government officials that the President of the United States is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 election. Funny how none of the people who mentioned this to the crybaby saw fit to bring this up. Exactly why is that? Why is the crybaby the only one who decided that this was of such importance they had to file a false whistleblower complaint? And I say false because they had no direct evidence of what happened. They were not there. They did not see the transcript like we did. As Ben Shapiro said earlier, we know more about what happened than the crybaby does. So there's that. And if this was so incredibly important to file a whistleblower complaint, why was it leaked to the press? What's up with that? The IG referred it, and we'll get into what the DOJ did. But this is pure. This is a political hit job. That's all it is. Excuse me, please. I don't know where that came from. Now remember, the crybaby still wants to remain anonymous, which is not going to happen, and is being represented, as I said yesterday, by lawyers from who have worked for Hillary and Schumer and Kerry, the former Secretary of State. So 2 former Secretaries of State. And I heard yesterday that these lawyers have been advertising on billboards around D.C. and Virginia that if you have information on Trump, they will represent you pro bono. So there's no impetus here to come forward with this complaint at all. This was purely out of the goodness of the crybaby's heart, I'm sure. Deep State Misinformation is here. Thank you so much for stopping by again. And I think you have the perfect handle for what's going on here right now. Handle, of course, being an old Citizen Band radio term. My handle was Shakespeare, by the way. But I did not name myself after the great bard. I named myself after my favorite fishing rod. Go figure. But yes, this is Deep State disinformation. Because, again, they're just trying to draw attention away from the IG report. When it comes out, it nails everybody to the wall for their FISA abuse. And then when Durham comes out, it nails everyone to the wall for the illegality of Crossfire Hurricane. And then after that, the illegality of the Mueller probe. I fully see Manafort, Flynn, and Papadopoulos' convictions being overturned because they were basically fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything that was dug up on them was the result of a illegal campaign, or an illegal harassment campaign. And remember, Manafort was the victim of the Black Ledger, the disinformation that Ukraine sent to the Hillary campaign and to the FBI in order to begin the investigation against Manafort by falsely claiming that he was receiving money under the table from the Ukraine. I believe it was money under the table. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it was illegal monies being distributed. That much I know. Okay, we've gotten in 3 sentences, and I've already been babbling for a half hour. Let's see how far we can get on this. To continue. This interference includes, among other things, pressuring a foreign country to investigate one of the president's main domestic political rivals. And again, they never saw the transcript. They don't know what they're talking about. The president's personal lawyer, Mr. Rudolph Giuliani, is a central figure in this effort. So what? He has every legal opportunity to do so. Attorney General Barr appears to be involved as well. That's a lie. That's a complete lie. Bullet point. Over the past 4 months, more than half a dozen U.S. officials have informed me of various facts related to this effort. It doesn't say if they're current or former. It doesn't say who they are. And obviously, this is second and third-hand information, not anything this person knows directly. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, can be discounted wholly. To continue. The information provided herein was relayed to me in the course of official interagency business. It is routine for U.S. officials with responsibility for a particular regional or functional portfolio to share such information with one another in order to inform policymaking and analysis. You have no proof that any of this happened, yet you go forward with a complaint. I was not a direct witness to most of the events described. Most? Try none. However, I found my colleagues' accounts of these events to be credible because in almost all cases, multiple officials recounted fact patterns that were consistent with one another. A bunch of people making up stories around the water cooler, and you buy into it. In addition, a variety of information consistent with these private accounts has been reported publicly. We'll get to that in Section 3, as I understand it. To continue. I am deeply concerned that the actions described below constitute, quote, a serious or flagrant problem, abuse, or violation of law or executive order, close quote, that, quote, does not include differences of opinions concerning public policy matters, close quote, consistent with the definition of a, quote, urgent concern in 50 U.S.C. Section 3033 K5G. I am therefore fulfilling my duty to report this information through proper legal channels to the relevant authorities. Well, I mean, that is true. They did go through the proper channels. You got to give them that. But it got leaked to the press. So screw you. Bullet point. I am also concerned that these actions pose risk to U.S. national security and undermine the U.S. government's efforts to deter and counter foreign interference in U.S. elections. And how exactly are you going to prove that? What basis do you have for that concern? Seriously. Seriously. To continue. To the best of my knowledge, the entirety of the statement is unclassified when separated from the classified enclosure. I have endeavored to apply the classification standards outlined in Executive Order 13-526 and to separate out information that I know or have reason to believe is classified for national security purposes. And there's a footnote. We'll get to that. Bullet point. If a classification marking is applied retroactively, I believe it is incumbent upon the classifying authority to explain why such a marking was applied and to which specific information it pertains. Well, yeah, you'll get the explanation, but you can also get slapped for distributing confidential information out of proper channels. So there's that. Section 1. The 25 July presidential phone call. Early in the morning of 25 July, the president spoke by telephone with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I do not know which side initiated the call. You don't know anything about the call. This was the first publicly acknowledged call between the two leaders since a brief congratulatory call after Mr. Zelensky won the presidency on 21 April. And again, they're spelling Zelensky with two Y's. It must be a White House thing. To continue. Multiple White House officials with direct knowledge of the call informed me that, after an initial exchange of pleasantries, the president used the remainder of the call to advance his personal interests. Not true. We read the call. Namely, he sought to pressure. Not that he pressured, but that he sought to pressure. What the hell does that mean? Namely, he sought to pressure the Ukrainian leader to take actions to help the president's 2020 re-election bid. That's an interpretation, not fact. Let's continue. According to the White House officials who had direct knowledge of the call, the president pressured Mr. Zelensky. Now it's not sought to pressure, but actual pressured Mr. Zelensky to, inter alia, bullet point 1, initiate or concern an investigation, footnote, into the activities of former Vice President Joseph Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. Joe and Hunter were corrupt U.S. citizens doing business with a foreign country. Trump has every right to investigate that. He's supposed to, as the chief executive of the United States, one of his main duties is to enforce the laws of the United States. It's apparent that Joe Biden broke the at least the conflict of interest statute that is in Article 2 of the Constitution, if not just a general federal rule, and he interdicted illegally. It was a quid pro quo. Sorry about that. So that's the thing they're accusing Trump of, that they're going to impeach him for, and Biden actually did it. So screw you, crybaby. Bullet point 2. Assist in purportedly uncovering that allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election originated in Ukraine, with a specific request that the Ukrainian leader locate and turn over servers used by the Democratic National Committee, DNC, and examined by the U.S. cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, we'll get to that, which initially reported that Russian hackers had penetrated the DNC's networks in 2016, and, bullet point 3, meet or speak with two people the president named explicitly as his personal envoys on these matters, Mr. Giuliani and Attorney General Barr, to whom the president referred multiple times in tandem. So, what? Crybaby. All right. Footnote 1. Apart from the information in the enclosure, it is my belief that none of the information contained herein meets the definition of classified information. Let's see, okay. It's just a lot of blah, blah, blah. Footnote 2, it is unclear whether such a Ukrainian investigation exists. So you're talking about nothing, as if it actually happened. 3, I do not know why the president associates these servers with Ukraine. See, for example, his comments to Fox News on 20 July and Ukraine. Take a look at Ukraine. How come the FBI didn't take the server? Podesta told them to get out. He said, get out. So how come the FBI didn't take the server from the DNC? Okay. I found out why Trump has a connection between Ukraine and CrowdStrike. I knew this previously, but had forgotten. CrowdStrike initially came to notice because they said that the Russians had hacked into the Ukrainian defense network, specifically their artillery network, and had hacked it to keep it from being able to accurately fire upon Russian proxy forces. That turned out not to be the case. It was proven later that CrowdStrike was completely incorrect. They're idiots, but somehow the reputation that they did find something preceded them, and the actual revelation that they're complete and utter screw-ups, I almost said a bad word, did not follow them. Hence, the DNC and Hillary thinking, well, maybe we can bring these guys in. Or you could think that they knew that these guys had screwed up and knew that they could lean on them because they had such a bad reputation, and could say, you know what, we'll give you good marks if you do what we say what we say to do. And CrowdStrike probably bent over backwards, falsely claimed that the Russians had hacked the servers. And again, no law enforcement agency in the United States ever saw those servers. Like Trump said, they were told to get out. They were never allowed to look at an image of those servers and determine for themselves, for the people of the United States, whether there had been an actual hack. That's why I refuse to believe anyone, including Mueller, who says that there was a Russian hack on those emails, because that's completely false. They were stolen internally and leaked to WikiLeaks, period. To continue. The president also praised Ukraine's prosecutor general, Mr. Yuri Lutsenko, and suggested that Mr. Zelensky might want to keep him in his position. Note, starting in March 2019, Mr. Lutsenko made a series of public allegations, many of which he later walked back, about the Biden family's activities in Ukraine, Ukrainian officials' purported involvement in the 2016 U.S. election, and the activities of the U.S. Embassy in Kiev. Okay, some people say you're supposed to pronounce it Kiev. I'm going to pronounce it Kiev. See Part 4 for additional context. You're not saying that he walked back the allegations about the Bidens or the Ukrainians' proven disinformation campaign into the Trump campaign. And I don't know about the activities of the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, but if the U.S. Embassy operated anything like the rest of the Obama administration, they were in it up to their neck, if not their lower lip. To continue. The White House officials who told me this information were deeply disturbed by what had transpired in the phone call. So why didn't they go the whistleblower route? They told me that there was already, quote, a discussion ongoing with White House lawyers about how to treat the call because of the likelihood in the officials' retelling that they had witnessed the president abuse his office for personal gain. Because of the likelihood in the officials' retelling. Likelihood. Not proven. Not definitive. Likelihood. To continue. The Ukrainian side was the first to publicly acknowledge the phone call. On the evening of 25 July, a readout was posted on the website of the Ukrainian president that contained the following line. Translation from the original Russian language readout. Bullet point. Quote, Donald Trump expressed his conviction that the new Ukrainian government will be able to quickly improve Ukraine's image and complete the investigation of corruption cases that have held back cooperation between Ukraine and the United States. Zelensky was elected on the basis of his promise to clean out the rampant, inherent, and absolutely definitive corruption of the Ukrainian government system. Ukraine has been a noted corrupt government for a long time. Obama probably used that as an excuse to not back them when the Russians invaded Crimea and then the southeastern part of Ukraine. If those are the same things, forgive me, I'm not really good on Eastern European geography. But I believe they annexed Crimea and then invaded the southeast portion of Ukraine under the guise of saying they were liberating ethnic Russians who were being mistreated. That's my understanding anyway. Zelensky had to prove that he was anti-corruption, that he was going to bring in people who were not part of the old state, and that he was going to get things done. So this bullet point actually proves that Trump was right to withhold the aid to the Ukrainians until he saw Zelensky making progress. He never said that they had to make progress on the Bidens or the Black Ledger. I'm sure he was looking forward to that, but there was no quid pro quo. God, I hate that phrase. Hey, Justifiable Freedom, welcome. Welcome, good sir. And Beaker, welcome to you as well. Nice to see you. Thanks for the shout out to the other stream. the other night. That's very kind of you. And I very much appreciate anyone letting other people know about the stream. It helps it grow and makes me feel good knowing that other people are enjoying the work and enjoying the company of what I think is one of the best chats, if not the best chat, on YouTube. So go for it, folks. All right, so we knocked down that bullet point. Continuing. Aside from the above-mentioned, quote, cases purportedly dealing with the Biden family, they are cases, dear, and the 2016 U.S. election, I was told by White House officials that no other, quote, cases were discussed. Well, any other cases would have probably been internal Ukrainian cases, so why would Trump even bring them up? Why would he even know about them? Continuing. Based on my understanding, there were approximately a dozen White House officials who listened to the call, a mixture of policy officials and duty officers in the White House Situation Room, as is customary. The officials I spoke with told me that participation in the call had not been restricted in advance because everyone expected it would be a, quote, routine call with a foreign leader. I do not know whether anyone was physically present with the president during the call. You don't know anything about anything, yet you're trying to make it seem like your information is rock solid. This is all conjecture and hearsay, folks. All of it. Bullet point 1. In addition to White House personnel, I was told that a State Department official, Mr. T. Ulrich Breckbull, also listened in on the call. Did you talk to Mr. Breckbull? And bullet point 2, I was not the only non-White House official to receive a readout of the call. You're saying you received a readout of the call. Why? Continuing, based on my understanding, multiple State Department and intelligence community officials were also briefed on the contents of the call as outlined above. And your briefing, as you describe it, was incomplete and partly incoherent. You're saying things happened that didn't happen, and you're extrapolating things that are easily explained and making them sound like they were nefarious. Freaking crybaby. Section 2, efforts to restrict access to records related to the call. In the days following the phone call, I learned from multiple U.S. officials that senior White House officials had intervened to, quote, lock down all records of the phone call, especially the official word-for-word transcript of the call that was produced, as is customary, by the White House Situation Room. This set of actions underscored to me that White House officials understood the gravity of what had transpired in the call. It was a executive phone call, a presidential phone call. Do you think they're going to leave the transcripts lying around on the floor? I mean, seriously, why wouldn't they lock them up? It was a privileged conversation between two world leaders. They lock up everything like that. This was not a special case. Hey, DI. By the way, do you mind if I call you DI, or do you prefer the whole DI Freighter Watcher? I'm abbreviating, and I don't want to offend you. So please let me know. And thank you for being here. I hope lunch yesterday was great. I hope lunch today was great. Okay. So we locked that down. What are all these bullet points, for crying out loud? This is ridiculous. Watcher. Okay. Thank you. Watcher it is. Bullet point 1. White House officials told me they were, quote, directed by White House lawyers to remove the electronic transcript from the computer system in which some transcripts are typically stored for coordination, finalization, and distribution to cabinet-level officials. White House officials. Unnamed. Bullet point 2. Instead, the transcript was loaded into a separate electronic system that is otherwise used to store and handle classified information of an especially sensitive nature. One White House official described this act as an abuse of this electronic system because the call did not contain anything remotely sensitive from a national security perspective. Yet, earlier in this diatribe, you said that our national security was what's the word I'm looking for? Harmed, if I can, by harmed by the phone call, harmed by Trump's actions. So which is it? There was no national security information, or there was national security information. You can't have it both ways, crybaby. And Picasso knows, makes an excellent point. There have been so many leaks in the White House. That alone is the reason to lock it down. Absolutely. Absolutely. King James, welcome, welcome, and welcome. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the chat. And try not to listen to my babbling too much. You'll probably lose IQ points. Folks, I'm gonna have to go native here. It's getting warm in this room. Another nice day outside. I'm gonna get this sweater off. I'll be right with you. Nah. Picasso just noticed my camera's been off the whole time. There it is. I blame y'all for not letting me know. Shame on you. Shame, 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 shame. Or you're telling me that you don't want the camera on all the time, and you were letting me know by omission. Uncle Bobbity, welcome, welcome, and welcome. Yeah, I turned off the camera when I was recording the testimony. I forgot to turn it back on. Ta-da. Okay, abuse of the electronic system, blah, 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 blah. I do not know whether similar measures were taken to restrict access to other records of the call, such as contemporaneous handwritten notes taken by those who listened in. You don't know anything, in other words. You're just babbling. Section 3, Ongoing Concerns. On 26 July, a day after the call, U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine negotiations, Kurt Volker, visited Kiev and met with President Zelensky and a variety of Ukrainian political figures. Ambassador Volker was accompanied in his meetings by U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland. Based on multiple readouts of these meetings recounted to me, again, recounted, never saw directly. This is all second and